A strategic port slipped out of a nation's hand, not by war, but under the weight of debt. In 2017, Sri Lanka, drowning in Chinese loans, gave up its port to China on a 99-year lease. No warship appears off its coast, just contracts and signatures handing over the harbor. That moment was a wake-up call. Debt had become a new weapon in global politics. Instead of sending in troops, a great power could now expand its reach through loans. One port, one railway, one road at a time. Over the past decade, through its vast Belt and Road Initiative, China has financed railways, highways, ports across Asia, Africa and beyond. Dozens of nations eagerly took these loans to build infrastructure, drawn by Beijing promises of partnership and development. But beneath the glossy new airports and highways, many countries found themselves deep in debt. When the loans came due and they couldn't pay, Beijing was in position to demand something in return. This pattern is known as debt trap diplomacy. Loans so large and unsustainable that the borrower defaults and the lender can demand strategic concessions. Hambantota Port is the clearest example. Sri Lanka built it with Chinese money hoping to boost trade. But the port drew few ships and didn't earn enough money to repay the debt. Out of options, Sri Lanka handed China a controlling stake and a 99-year lease. The world took notice. A piece of Sri Lanka territory was now effectively under Chinese control. Hambantota sits near busy Indian Ocean shipping lanes. With this foothold, Beijing gained influence in a region India considered its backyard. Some feared the port could become a Chinese naval outpost, though Sri Lanka's leaders denied any military angle. Elsewhere, alarm bells were ringing. In Kenya, China funded a multi-billion-dollar railway from Mombasa port to the interior. Rumors spread that Mombasa, East Africa's biggest port, was put up as collateral. And in 2018, a leaked audit report hinted that if Kenya defaulted, China could seize Mombasa port. The idea of losing such a crucial asset sparked public outrage. Kenyan officials denied using the port as security and insisted the fears were outblown. In the end, China did not take over Mombasa. But the scare showed how the threat of debt leverage can influence a nation's choice. Pakistan has taken tens of billions of Chinese loans. Under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Chinese firms built highways, power plants, and the Gwadar Port. By 2019, Pakistan owed China at least $10 billion, third of its foreign debt. This debt gives China sway in Pakistan. To stay afloat, Islamabad has often needed Beijing to extend deadlines or offer new credit. When Pakistan faces a financial crisis, it turns to the International Monetary Fund for help. In part to pay Chinese lenders, Pakistan's grow more reliant on China's good graces to avoid collapse. For China, dividends are strategic as well as financial. Gwadar Port sits near the Persian Gulf entrance. The port is run by Chinese companies, giving Beijing a stronghold in the Arabian Sea. If China's navy ever wanted to use Gwadar as a base, Pakistan, dependent on Chinese money, would struggle to refuse. Even tiny nations have been caught in this web. The Maldives took large loans from China to build airports, housing, and loads. By 2018, it owned Beijing about $1.5 billion, roughly 30% of its GDP. At one point, its payment to China were nearly half the government's revenue, an impossible burden. Maldives politicians warned of a trap. An ex-president claimed that China was using debt as a disciplining agent over the Maldives. After a new government came in, the Maldives scrambled to renegotiate and sought help from other partners. Even Paradise found itself shackled by debt. On the Horn of Africa, Djibouti faced a similar fate. By 2017, Djibouti's debt to China has swelled over 80% of its GDP. That same year, China opened its first military base there. A Chinese state firm also took over Djibouti's key container port after the government ousted a Dubai company. With its economy so tied to Chinese financing, Djibouti effectively gave Beijing a foothold at the gateway to the Suez Canal. Chinese naval ships now operate from Djibouti, cementing China's presence in the African coast, all under the shadow of big loans. Even Europe is not immune. Montenegro, a Balkan state, took nearly $1 billion from China to build a highway. When the loan came due, Montenegro couldn't pay, and in 2021, it pleaded with the European Union to help avoid default. The European Union stepped in to refinance the debt, narrowly preventing a Chinese takeover. Across continents, the pattern is the same. Laos had to cede a majority control of its electric grid to a Chinese company for a debt relief. Ecuador agreed to send most of its oil to China for years to repay loans. In case after case, Beijing turned loans into leverage. Why is China doing this? On one level, it's business. Chinese companies profit and win contracts. But on a grander level, these loans buy Beijing influence and access. When a country owes billions, it tends to avoid angering its lender. Government deep in debt to China often grow silent on Beijing's human rights issues and territorial claims, as dependencies make them pliable. China, for its part, denies ill intent. It bristles at debt trap accusations, calling them smears. Beijing says it provides needed development, and notes that Western Bank also imposes harsh terms. It has forgiven some debts and claims that it doesn't want to push anyone to default. Still, by design or not, China's lending has created a web of influence. When a borrower falters, Beijing often gains the upper hand. Maybe a long lease of port, a stake in utility, or quiet political support. Economic control becomes political clout. For countries caught in this trap, the consequences are painful. The shiny new projects comes with crushing bills. Public anger rises as people see sovereignty slipping away. New leaders might vow to escape China's shadow, but unwinding these deals is difficult. In the 21st century, money and credit have become weapons. Without firing a shot, China has extended its reach through ports, pipelines, loans, and leases, reshaping alliances and power balances. Sri Lanka's port, Kenya's close call, Pakistan's dependency. Each is a story of big promises and hard lessons. They show how a financial tie to China can redefine a country's future. This is how China weaponizes debt. A slow, quiet campaign of influence, one contract at a time. The borrower becomes beholden to the lender, and Beijing's long game advances. Global politics being redrawn, not in battlefields, but in boardrooms. Sri Lanka lost a port. Djibouti hosts a Chinese base. Laos gave up its grid. These cautionary tales mark a new era of great power rivalry, one where loans and debts are reshaping the world's political landscape.